Hola, bienvenidos a Lightspeed Spanish. Well, today I'm going to share with you a couple of really handy little tips so that you understand ser and estar in Spanish a little bit better. Hablamos de todo en la segunda parte. So for anybody who's learning Spanish, for sure already you've come across the two verbs to be, which is ser and estar. Now in English we only have one, which is to be. I am, you are, he, she is, etc. In Spanish they have two, and this is where the problems start. The difficulty we have when we're learning Spanish is to know when should we say estar and when should we say ser? How do you differentiate? Well, at the very beginning, when I was learning Spanish, I was taught this. Ser is permanent and estar is temporary. When I learned that, it was like an moment. The heavens opened, a light bulb illuminated, and I thought, I've got it. Then the next day in my book, I saw La persona está muerta. The person is no longer alive. And that was with estar, temporary. And I thought, hang on a minute. You know, when you pass over, is it temporary? I don't think so. Seems pretty permanent to me. And then I saw further on in the book, La iglesia está en la plaza. And I was thinking, the church is in the square, but it's been there for centuries and they're using estar, temporary. And that's when I realised that there was something wrong with that permanent and temporary. It's not bad when you just get cracking, when you just get started, like the first week of learning Spanish, all right, it'll help you. But as soon as you get beyond that, then it starts being an impediment. One of the issues that we have with permanent and temporary is that it's not explaining itself very well. So I'm going to give you a couple of concepts that will help you. The first thing is that rather than saying permanent, what we say is a permanent trait. For ser is a permanent trait. What do we mean by the permanent trait? Well, soy hombre, I'm a man. Soy inglés, I'm English. Permanent. It's not going to change. It's a trait. Yeah, it's a trait of who I am. Soy alto. I'm tall. These are permanent traits. And with estar, it's a temporary state. You see the word estar, from that word, you get state, as in los Estados Unidos, the States United. Un estado is a state, and it comes from the verb estar. And estar is used for temporary states, like estoy feliz, estoy contento, I'm happy, estoy triste, estoy aquí, I'm here, estoy allí, I'm there. So things that change. But hey, you might be saying, hey Gordon, don't rush ahead. Explain I am no longer alive. I've got to be careful with that word D-E-A-D. For whatever reason in YouTube, it doesn't like it. So I'll just use unalived, okay? I'm unalived. What's that about? Well, they use the same for being alive. Estoy vivo, I'm alive. Estoy muerto, I'm not alive, okay? So they use the same verb because we're talking about a process. And do you know the royal family, when they pass over, they are laid in state. They're laid in state. It's a state of not being alive. The state. Okay? So that's what it's all about. But what you mustn't do with all of these rules is you mustn't try and staple them into place without any movement. There's always a little bit of like, that part that is art, that 5% that you think, well, it doesn't quite make sense, but hey, there's a small amount, so I can just remember that. But the vast majority of ser and estar falls into estar, temporary state, ser, permanent trait. And I'll give you one other tip for ser and estar that will help you. Ser is what we expect to see. It's the standard. It's the normal. And the way to remember ser is if you give a child a piece of paper and you said, paint the sun or draw the sun, the child would go for the yellow. And if you said, draw the sea, the child would go for blue. Yeah? Draw the sky, blue. Draw the clouds, white. It's what we expect to see. It has nothing to do with the truth. It's what we expect. El sol es amarillo. Las nubes son blancas. El cielo es azul. El mar es azul. So it's kind of what we expect. It's a standard. Estar is what we don't expect. It's when something is outside of the normal. Something isn't what it should be. For example, I could say, I look up at the sky and it's grey. If you're in the UK, that's the normal. But you look up at the sky and it's grey and you say, mira, el cielo está gris. Okay, the sky is grey. I'm using estar. This is not normal. This is not what we expect. For example, I could say, mi hermano es delgado. My brother is thin. Yeah? And I'm using es because that's the standard. That's what he is. That's what I believe him to be. But then I see him. I haven't seen him for a while. And I see him and he's put weight on. That's when I would say, mi hermano está muy gordo. And I'm using estar. Why am I using estar? Because I'm saying this is not normal. This is not what I'm expecting. Okay? So estar is things that are outside of the normal. And ser is what we expect. It's a permanent trait. And estar is a temporary state. When people put weight on, we view it as temporary. This is not normal. This is outside of the norm. Okay? So, 2 little tips for ser and estar. We've got a great book on the market called Ser and Estar Made Simple. It's available on Amazon and you can find it by putting in Gordon Smith Duran, Lightspeed Spanish, and you'll see all of the books that we have. Bueno chicos, muchas gracias por pasar un ratito conmigo. Luego nos vemos. Hasta luego.